Hi, hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, which really isn't a webinar, it's a tool demonstration for the web-based browser, or what we also say WBB. So just so everyone's aware, today I will just have a couple basic background slides. The focus today will solely be on demoing the browser. So after a couple basic background slides, I will pull up the browser and we will go through. It should last around, today's demo should last around 30 minutes with time for questions. We will not, if you joined any of my webinars in the past, you know I'm very keen on poll everywhere and keeping things interactive. Unfortunately, we will not be using it today because of the short duration and also because I will just be demoing the browser. But if you have a question or would like more clarity around something I am showing, please enter that into the questions panel in your GoToWebinar. It should be on my screen. It appears in the upper right-hand corner. I don't know where it appears on your screen, but if you can just take any question you want into that panel, and Sarah will be able to read them out for me. I already let Sarah know she can interrupt me at any time during this presentation, so we can address the question while I am on a certain part of the browser. If anyone has a question around something, so we don't have to worry about going back to it. We can address it as is to keep it a little bit more interactive, and plus just address the questions as they come through. So speaking of Sarah, that's whose voice you heard earlier, and I would just like to give her a quick thank you for all of her help today, setting up the webinar, helping me on the technical side of things, and also reading out all the questions that we may have today. Sarah has given everyone temporary access to the web-based browser. It should appear in the chat section of your GoToWebinar screen. If you would like to log in and follow along, that's great. You're not required to. It is a nice touch, though, to be able to log in. If you don't already have a login from your organization, you can use the temporary one for today and then follow along. Maybe it will help you to remember things a little bit better. So as mentioned, today's webinar will be a demonstration, and I will be going through some of the many key features that reside within the web-based browser. So hopefully I can take you on a fun journey to help you learn how to best use the web-based browser. With that being said, let me introduce myself. My name is Nicole Fornerato. I'm a clinical associate with the MSSO for a little over 2 years now. I reside in northern New Jersey in the New York City area. And I always like to give a little weather report every webinar I do just to get things going. But I'm coming to you today from a very, very nice, beautiful spring day. A little on the cool side, but that's okay by me. But a nice sunny day. So just so everyone's aware, before the MSSO, I did work in both pharma and biotech. I worked for CROs, etc., in and with medical coding, as well as the analysis of data. So with that being said, you can imagine how important the web-based browser was as a tool for my day-to-day, as I'm sure it is for you as well, and that's why you're joining today. So as I mentioned, I'm just going to go through a couple slides here at the beginning to get us started. So this is just a slide to let you know that the MSSO gives 3 choices when it comes to browsers. They have a desktop browser, a web-based browser, which we will be focusing on today, and a mobile browser. And just to let you know, unfortunately, the desktop browser is not compatible with Macs, meaning the web-based browser should be used. So in the case that you have a Mac computer, you are in business today, because this is the browser we will be focusing on, the one that is compatible, the web-based browser. Okay, so it's important to note that all the browsers require a username and password to use. As mentioned, today we give temporary access, but within your organization, you should be able to gain your organization's access to the browser to be able to log into it. The web-based browser itself does not require an internet connection, but it's important to note that the MSSO also does all of the work for keeping it current for you. What that means is that all versions of the MedDRA dictionary and all languages that are available of the MedDRA dictionary are uploaded into the web-based browser as soon as the MedDRA release happens. So it's in real time, the browser. So once the MedDRA release happens, which the last one was on March 1st of this year, the web-based browser will follow with an update to the current version, which is 26. So it will be available in more of, say, real time. So that's one of the key features of the web-based browser. Along with that, you can also store and save data to a local file by using the research bin, which I will show you shortly when we get to our demo section. I will go through a couple key features, and one of them is that research bin. I get asked about that a lot. Okay, so also within the web-based browser, you can preview supplemental changes. What that simply means is new terms that are coming in the pipeline for the next version release. So this is a feature that is only available in the web-based browser. And again, I will show you that feature today and how to distinguish what may be a new term that's coming in the pipeline for, say, the next version of 26.1 that will be released in September, versus if it's just a plain old regular term that was already in MedDRA during the current release. So I'll show you how to distinguish that, and to also know how you're on the screen for the supplemental terms. So within the web-based browser, you can also view primary and secondary link information, as well as upload terms to run against SMQs and the MedDRA hierarchy. And today, just to note, we will not be going into depth around two additional tools, the hierarchy analysis tool and the SMQ tool, but I will show you how to access them and what is required to use them. We do go into more detail on those tools in our other webinars, which is the data analysis webinar and the SMQ webinar. And the reason why I won't go into detail on those two tools is because it does require a little bit more than just showing you it. I can show you how to access it, and like I said, what you need, but it is helpful to have some background information on what the output and everything will actually mean, and how you can go about getting that output, etc. So we'll just touch upon those today. And then one last thing is there's also an advanced search option available in the browser, which comes in handy when you're dealing with a complex term and would like to do a more detailed search. And again, I will show you that. I'm mainly going through these slides so that you have a reference point. And I did forget to mention, now that I think about it, when I first started the webinar, that I will have these slides sent to everyone online after the webinar is complete today. So Sarah will be sending these slides to you just to have as a reference point. You know, it is nice sometimes to go back and have that. Okay, so simply this slide, it's just, like I said, just a reference slide to show you how you can access the supplemental view within the web-based browser. So you can see there is a little click down that you can do. We'll go through that in a moment. And then this slide also serves as a visual reference for the supplemental view once it's being used. So as you can see in my slide deck, that the screen will turn pink and the supplemental terms are highlighted by a broken green line around them, which I will show you when we get to that. So it's important to note that the MSSO adds any new terms. When they add any new terms, they will be available that are available for the next release. They will be inputted into the web-based browser as soon as they are approved. So this means that all terms within this feature are always current. So you can go in one day and go in the next day, and you may see different terms depending on what you're looking for and what was added into, or I should say approved by the MSSO, which will be then added into the next version of MedDRA. So this feature is always a current feature. So with that being said, those are the slides I have. I have one more slide for after the demo is complete, just for some tips and tricks. But now I will basically just be going into the demo portion of our presentation. But before I do that, I just want to take a quick pause and ask Sarah if any questions have come in so far.
We do not have any yet.
Okay, great. Then we'll get going with the demonstration, which is why everyone's here today, right? So let me show you how to first access the web-based browser. So what you do, if you don't already know, you just go to www.meddra.org, and you could follow along with me today if you've never used the browser. It might be a good idea, just follow along so you can see the steps. So go to www.meddra.org, and here in the upper right-hand corner, you see a WBB. That implies the web-based browser. You can just click on that. You'll be prompted for your language, and of course, my preferred language today will be English, but you can feel free to change that to any language you would like to use to follow along in, or just in general, if you are browsing in a web-based browser, you can change the language before you even log in, and your preference will be set. And then, like I said, you will need a MedDRA ID and a password. Mine are pre-populated, so I don't have to remember it. But you can use the available in the chat panel. I'll give everybody a second that wants to log in. If you go to the chat panel, you can use that temporary ID. I believe the ID is like 8 and then a couple 9, like 4 9s or something, and then the password's also written there. So I'll give everybody a minute to, or a couple seconds to log in, and then we will open the browser up. So, and if anybody has any trouble logging in, please feel free to put a note in again in the questions section, and Sarah will address the password and username. Okay, so with that being said, we'll log in. So once you log into the web-based browser, this is the screen you will see. So it may look a little overwhelming if you never went in the browser before, but we'll try to break it down as best we can to show you that really, all in all, it's not so overwhelming after you start to use it for a while. So like I said, my preferred language up here is English, but you can set whatever language is your preferred language. And then also down here in the next box, there are language and version options. So you can see here, you can change the language if need be. So say you're working very international, or you're doing something that requires a different language, you can change that language. And you can see also that you can maybe keep, you may want to keep English as a language here, but then you may also want to look at, say, we'll say French, right? So you can click on that. And then as you can see here, it will appear in English and French. The same is true if you want to see maybe a third language. We'll just randomly pick Dutch, right? So now you can see all 3 languages are showing in the left-hand side of the browser here, and when you search and everything. So it's just a nice feature that we have. And as you can see here, the web-based browser does default to the current version of MedDRA, which is version 26.0. And as you could see, if you use the drop-down box, you can scroll down. A lot of other versions are available for this web-based browser. So you can switch versions. If you're on a clinical trial that's running on a different version, you can change it as you wish and use that. I'm going to just set all my defaults back to English here so that I can browse in English. As you can see, moving over to the right-hand side of the browser, you can see that there is a browser view. There is the SOC, or System Organ Class SOC view, which we are currently in. And as you can see here on the left-hand side, all these system organ classes are listed in alphabetical order. So we'll take a look at how to browse them in a second. But there also is an option here to switch to the standardized MedDRA queries, or SMQs, which we'll briefly touch upon, and I'll just show you how to switch over and what it looks like. And again, I won't go into a tremendous amount of detail because with SMQs, it's actually a good idea to take the SMQ webinar if you're not familiar with them and get some background, as well as an SMQ browser demo with that. And we do offer webinars on that. And then here, before I get into this view, the release versus the supplemental, and show you, I just want to go through some display options. This is just a preference, so you can show codes, which means you will get the 8-digit code associated with any MedDRA term. If you keep this checked, and I can show you here what that looks like. If you type in, say, headache and hit search, down here you will see headache with the code attached. If you uncheck that box, then you will just see headache up here, and it won't have the code attached. I always like to search for the code attached. Again, it's just a personal preference. You can search however you like. And some people do like to see the codes, especially if you're not just medical coding, if you're a statistician or somebody, you know, on the analysis side of things, and it's helpful for you to see that code, keep that. And then here we have a checkbox that shows non-current LLTs. In this case, you may want to see non-current LLTs for historical purposes, or you may say, hey, you know, I don't really care what's non-current. I'm not going to use them for coding or analysis purposes anyway right now. I want to just check that off, and then no non-current terms will show. However, if you keep it checked, you will see, I will pull up a term. Let me see if I can pull one up. Here we go, infusion-related hypotension. And you could see this has a red box around the LLT symbol, which means that term is non-current in this browser. So that's just showing you how if you search what you'll find. And then again, if you uncheck that box and you do the same search and you come over here, that term no longer appears and you won't see the non-currents, which to me, I typically keep my show non-current LLTs off unless I need it for some reason. But if I was just performing medical coding per se, I would keep that checkbox unchecked. And because I don't want to accidentally maybe get led into a direction of using a non-current for coding. But in this case, I will check it again just so you can see one more time what it looks like. And then with that being said, I will show you, because you might be saying, oh no, how am I going to remember that? It's how do I remember this? So what you do here is you can go up on the top and we have a legends feature. If you go just over from your preferred language, and you can click on that legends box and all the symbols for what might appear around a term in the browser will appear. So we're not going to get into specifics today, again, for primary or secondary terms or uniaxial versus multi-axial, but you can see here that you will be seeing these boxes with these symbols, and that just denotes what the term is. So if you see the red box, which I will show you when I get to scrolling on the left-hand side a little bit, that will mean that it's a uniaxial primary PT or preferred term there. And then if you see a blue box around the sock, that just means it's the primary sock for that term. And again, here's the symbol we did see, the LLT with the red box, with the red square around it, and that denotes a non-current term. So you don't have to worry about remembering these sorts of things. You can just always use that legends box. And again, we have a legends box for the SMQ, which I will show you when I switch over to that view. But
Nicole,
with that being said, oh, yes.
We do have a question while you're on that. Why would we want to see a non-current LLT? And what, again, was this non-current LLT?
So a non-current LLT is a term that's in the MedDRA dictionary that is no longer current. So exactly what it means, it's non-current. And they are in there for historical purposes. So when performing medical coding, you will not probably want to see a non-current LLT. But when you're doing analysis, if you are doing analysis on the data, sometimes it's important, you might, for historical purposes, maybe you're using an older version of MedDRA, or you're switching between versions of MedDRA and you want to see if something was current and then became non-current. That's why you would keep that box ticked. Are there any additional questions?
Perfect. We have two. One, whenever you get a chance, could you please show how to download the desktop app? And then another one that says, sorry, but I'm not seeing the language and version options menu. Can you show them how to display that?
Okay, so when you go into, if you're in the web-based browser, you should have, your screen should look exactly like mine looks, and you will see the language and version options here, and you can change that. If for some reason you're not seeing it, try to hit this restore defaults or log back in and log back out, and it might change. As for the MedDRA desktop browser, we will not be going into detail on that today because this is a demo around the web-based browser. However, we do have information available on our website. Whoops, I clicked over. And you can go to our browsers, or our here, how to use in tools, and you can get information around our browsers by clicking here. And there is information on how to download that desktop browser. I won't, like I said, I won't be going through that today, and that would take a lot more time. It's probably a webinar in itself, how to download the browser and add all the information with the ASCII files. So thank you for asking, but at least maybe you can reference this information and start the process. As you can see, we have a lot of information over here that you can use. Okay, so just in interest of time, we will just go through some more of these features. So as you're searching, you can see here, I used a truncated version of a term. I used infusion and then RELA instead of related. That's how I like to search. It's just one tip or hint that I would like to give everyone today. If you're looking for something, say, with an infusion related kind of information, my suggestion is I always just truncate. And sometimes I will even truncate the infusion term, right? And you can still search and information will still pop up. Now you see here in the search results, we're seeing lots of different categories for what's popping up. And the one that opened here is there are 6 terms with a contains result. There is no exact match, obviously, because I truncated a term. And then there's also no lexical variant, which simply means, let me just clear that off so it's not distracting. A lexical variant simply means a different word order of the term or result entered. So it's associated with the synonym list. And what exactly is the synonym list file? So this lexical variant will read off of that. Or I mean, the synonym list will be associated with the synonym file, and the lexical variant will kind of flip your words around if you want to see that. So if there was like a related infusion per se, then it would come up. And when we go down one more, we see the synonym search results. And that simply means it's a synonym associated with the term. And you could come up here. I do have my use synonym list box checked. And I will open that and show you that it just gives you synonyms for different words. And this is what it will feed off of. So if you could see here, if you're typing in the word bleed, or hemorrhage, I should say, the synonym group would be bleed. Or if you type contusion, bruise terms would come up, and the same for all of these terms. So if you just want to see what synonyms we have available in the MedDRA dictionary and how that works, you can simply, again, just click on that button. A pop-up screen will appear and you'll be able to see. And now we can do real time. Let's type, say, bruise in and see what pops up in this case. It takes a second, I'm sorry, because I'm on, the internet. It's going to be a little slow with a lot of connections today. And you can see here that we do see the LLT bruise, and we do have some synonyms search results that did appear in this case. And as we scroll down, we can see that the term of contusion is there. So that's kind of how that works. So if you're more looking for a broader search and you want to say, okay, I want to look at bruise, but I don't want to miss anything, and maybe you're not fully aware of what could be associated with a bruise, I would say definitely keep that box checked and use the synonyms, because then your breadth of LLTs you receive, your output will be a lot larger, and you'll be able to search a lot more terms to see if the specific term you are looking for is available. This ignore diacritical marks. To be honest, I never use it, but also I don't speak any other languages or use the dictionary in any other languages, unfortunately, right? But for those of you who do, this is used in foreign language like French, etc. You can keep it checked. You cannot keep it checked depending on if you need it. If you're looking for that, it's just kind of a slash, a mark over certain accent. It's an accent mark over a certain area of a term in another language. And then this final category, show PT, LLT, what categories. That simply means, like we looked here, it will show the category. So it will show not only the exact match for a term you may have typed, but it will also show that lexical variant, that synonym search result, and then anything that the result contains. If you want to uncheck that box, you can see it will take a second. It will load up, and just the search results will appear, and it will come in a list without that additional lexical variant, etc. But you can see here, because we still have the synonym box list checked, that my synonym type terms like contusion, etc. will still appear, bruising. So that is a very good feature. I personally, along the way today, I like to give you little tips on how I like to search. You don't have to feel obligated to search the same way I do. As you get used to using the browser, and as you browse a little bit more and become more familiar with it, you'll get your own preferences, and then you could start using it any way you like. But my personal preferences, I like to look without the categories. However, it does come in handy to look with the categories sometimes, right? And then you could see here up at top, the search options. We have all 5 search options checked, right? From system organ class to high-level group term to high-level term to preferred term to LLT. If you are focusing mainly on just solely on medical coding, right, you may want to only keep the LLT box checked. And then you can see here when we rerun our bruise search, only LLTs will appear. And those are the ones you will want to focus on when coding. So again, to that point, if you are more analyzing the data, it may be helpful to keep all 5 boxes checked. You run a search. We're looking for the word bruise currently. So give it a second. And as you can see, we have terms that either have bruise or contusion available at the lower level, at the PT level, as we can see here, or at the HLT level. So you can see, okay, we have an HLT. And then any of these levels, you can click this plus sign to kind of open it up and see where it goes up the hierarchy, up the MedDRA hierarchy. So if you see here, if we start at the LLT level and see we just want to look at bruise and say, okay, where does this go in the MedDRA hierarchy? You just simply click this plus sign, get the PT, click again. You get the HLT, which indicates that this term does follow a multi-axial path, linking into different parts of the dictionary. And you can keep clicking to say, okay, let's see where this actually links, all the different socks that it falls into. And you could see skin, and then we go here to injuries. And you see that blue box that we saw earlier around the sock, which denotes that the injury sock is this term's primary path. So as you can see, this takes up a lot of room on your screen to kind of keep opening these and checking. And it might be a little more time consuming. So what I'll do is I'll just collapse them all and I'll show you a different way. So we will collapse it even further down to the LLT. And what you can do to see that information is you can right click on this term bruise, right? You can go here to go to browser, and you will see that all those categories that we opened up, they all appear here in a nice little list. So it's much more visually, to me, visually pleasant to look at. And then you could see here that the blue box is there, and that denotes the primary path. And then what you can do is you can double click. Say you want to look at it from a skin perspective, right? You could double click on bruise at DLLT bruise here. But say you want to look at it from its primary path, which we'll do for demonstration purposes. You just double click on that LLT right there. It will take you to this left-hand side to the browser. And as you can see, it will highlight your term bruise, and it will show you the path that it took, and it will open up. So that's how you can see another way just to see the path of a term, or if you want to open it up to see what other options are available with under a certain PT or preferred term, or you just want to go by an LLT level and you want to say, hey, bruise is an LLT, what other LLTs are associated or fall closely in line with it that may fall under the same preferred term, then you can just simply take a look at what's under there. You can see soft tissue bruising, etc. So that's just one way to look at this. And as you can see, as I'm clicking on things in this screen, like say the LLT bruise, you could see a little on the right-hand side here, some notes have popped up. And that's just for your reference. You can see if the LLT bruise, or we can even go to the PT contusion, because that's what we would use in the SMQ. You could say, hey, okay, it falls under this sock, or it has a linkage here. The term will come up with its code. And you can also see if it falls into an SMQ. And then again, the PT occurrences in MedDRA and in the SMQ. So that's just a nice little notes section. So that's kind of different ways how you could do kind of a bottom-up approach, starting here and going up the hierarchy to see what you need. Or on the left-hand side, you would kind of go, you can go down the hierarchy if you want. You can open things up and look around. And again, you just take a term on this side in the middle here, and you can right click and just say go to browser, and the path will open up with the primary showing. So that's just a quick, easy way to have a look. So when I want to take a second to show you now, I'm just going to see, Sarah, are there any additional questions that may have come in?
Nope, not at this time.
Okay. Oh, and one more thing I want to show you before we get to the supplemental view is that you can also just look in a one SOC if that's what you prefer. The default is that you'll look in all SOCs when you type in a search here. But, you know, say you are only interested in, we'll do neoplasms, right? You're just interested in looking in a neoplasm sock. So you want to say T cell, we'll do a T cell lymphoma, right? And we'll hit search. So then it would just appear with the terms that fall within the neoplasm sock. And again, this is a personal preference. You can use this or just default. Typically, I'm going to clear this selection because I use the default, which is all socks. So when I'm doing a search, I want to see what appears in every sock and not just one. But this is available if you are interested in looking at just one particular sock for something. So it is a nice feature to have. Now, with that being said, I want to show you the supplemental view that we did our little tiny slide show on today. Here we are currently in the released version. So what we want to do to get to those supplemental views, please ignore that IMO view, that's an internal thing. But when we get to the supplemental view, you just click on that. And as you could see, just like our slide deck, it turned pink, right? And you have all the same features that you had. It searches the same exact way that it searched in the release view. It's just now the screen is pink and you are able to see any terms that may be coming in the pipeline. So for demonstration purposes, we'll use the term cardiac and we will click on, we can search that. I just hit enter, or you can click the search button and we'll see what pops up for cardiac. Not sure why nothing is popping up. Let me restore my browser searching. So hopefully I'm not having an internet problem. Let's try this again. We'll do cardiac and we'll hit search. Let's give it a moment because like I said, we are in a webinar and hopefully it pops up. There we go, thank goodness. So now I will actually, let me clear the categories to make it easier to view. And I will do a list view of the search for cardiac. And as we can see here, our non-currents are popping up because I did not uncheck that box. However, let's scroll down the list and let's see if we can find any terms. Here we go. There's a cardiac amyloidosis term. Let's see if there's any others. Oh, there's a bunch. Okay, so these are the terms, like I mentioned in the slides, that have the green broken line around them. And that is what denotes that this term is indeed a supplemental term that will be added in the next version of MedDRA. So whether you are medical coding or performing the analysis on that coding, and you just are interested to see what's coming up the pipeline and say, hey, I may want to, check, is my data going to be affected greatly by any changes coming? You can just take a look at these supplemental terms. If you know you have, you're very heavy in the cardiac realm and you want to see, okay, maybe I need that. Maybe I have a term that is linked to more of, say, a generic term, that now I will have a better match for that term available in the dictionary. It's a great feature. And again, just like I showed you earlier, same features as in the release. You can right click, go to browser, and then double click and it will pop up on the left hand side. So it works the same exact way. It's just that now you will see a green dotted line around anything that is a supplemental term. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to restore my defaults. And I will show you a couple of these features up on top just to get you familiar with everything. And as I mentioned, it's a great thing if you're in the browser now, you will have, if you don't have access to your organization's ID and password, I do recommend that you contact your organization's POC, or primary point of contact for the MSSO, and try to get a hold of that so you can log into the web-based browser. But for now, you have temporary credentials. I believe, and Sarah could correct me if I'm wrong here, but that you'll have those till Friday. So you'll be able to play around a little bit and look in the browser. So Nicole, here we just have, yes.
I have, yes, you are correct. They will have those temporary credentials until Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But I do have a couple of questions that did come in. Okay. One is, what does it mean that SOC is primary, the most specific for LLT?
Yeah, so that's the primary path it takes in MedDRA. So what I recommend there is we do have webinars available for MedDRA coding basics, etc., that will take you through the primary and secondary SOC and multi-axiality and uniaxiality. So that means that's the primary path it takes. So it's main SOC that it's linked to. And for coding purposes, the primary path is the one that is used.
And then the
Okay.
other one was, please, how can we resolve or decide which MedDRA code to use? For example, renal hypertension, as it has two codes, and then she lists out the codes, 1000 to 0789 and 10038464.
Okay, let me put the codes on here. Let me take away this list. I'm pulling up renal hypertension in real time. Let me take away non-currents to see where, okay, so here, okay, so 464 and 789. So that is depending on how you code the term. So if your term comes in as a, I don't know, a reported term of patient has hypertension renal, you would obviously code up here and then that code would be used to hypertension renal. If it comes in, say, patient had renal hypertension and you want a little bit of a closer code, then you would go down here and use this 464. So it all depends on what you're coding. So you don't necessarily focus so much on the code. If it's distracting, again, just unclick that checkbox. But just, you know, for coding purposes, that's up to how you code and that's an internal decision, but that's just the difference on, it's the word order that changed in that term. And as you can see at the PT level, that term links to the renal hypertension with a 464. So try not to focus so much on the codes, but more on the term itself and your reported term. Okay, any other questions?
Nope, that was it. Thank you.
Okay, great. I'm just going to quickly show you some of these features on the top. I already showed the legends. I'm going to show the MedDRA concept descriptions. So as you can see here, these are just descriptions of commonly occurring terms, a lot related to medication errors, but we do have, say, like acute. So what the MSSO considers the description for a term like acute, this comes in handy. It's a very good feature. Also, like chronic, if you're interested in looking at that, you can take a look. You can scroll through. We have everything from product, procedure, prescribing error, etc. to chronic. So just to let you know that this is there and you can take a look at it. We also have a search history feature, which is this tab right here. You can click on that and you can type in a term like, say, headache and hit search. And the history of that term will appear here. It will show you when it got, so say you want to see drug withdrawal headache. It will show you when it got added, what level it was added at, etc. It's just a good way just to see if you're interested in that. I mean, if you're more focusing on medical coding, this won't be of great importance, but if you are analyzing data, there are instances where you may need to know, like, okay, see here, headache discomfort. It was current in earlier versions, and then it went non-current in version 4.0. So it's just nice to be able to see that information. You could search any term you want in that feature. And that's good. Like if you are even medical coding and you get asked by your physicians or anyone else analyzing the data, you know, why was this present in our older versions of the coding and now in the new version it's not there? What happened? What happened to this term? You could say, okay, look, it became non-current in this version, and you can export this information to an Excel if need be. So you just click on that button and it will export to an Excel. And then also up here, you can open a new browser window if need be, if you want two browsers open for whatever reason. You can also look at MedDRA documentation. You click here and it will automatically link you to our web page with the MedDRA documentation that we have available, right? So here are the versions for each dictionary and what we have available under each version and what's new, the distribution. As you can see, we don't have things like ASCII files. It does take you, because that comes with your release, which you need to have a login for, obviously. You have to have a subscription. And then it takes you to things like the points to consider document, the data retrieval presentation points to consider, and the best practices document. So it's a nice, easy way to be able to get to the web page, and then you can always bookmark this page as well as meddra.org for yourself to be able to reference it in the future. Then we do also have a user guide here. So in case anything I'm saying today, you forget, 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, and you want to say, I want a little more information, you can download the user guide and have it available in case you want to say, okay, what is an advanced search? We can click on that and it will have screenshots as well as a description around the advanced search. And with that being said, that was a good one to show you because I will quickly show you the advanced search feature. So I get asked a lot, what's the difference between just searching here and maybe using the advanced search feature, right? So what I would say is if you're looking for something like a headache and you want to know, hey, is there a worsened, or we'll say aggravated in this case, available, you could do head contains, head, and, or you can even do or, right? You could change it, and contains, and in this case, I want to have contains, right? Aggravated, and then you can search and it will pop up anything that contains head and aggravated, right? And in the term. So as you can see, there's a list of terms that appear, and it's anything with those letters in it. So, oh, I put or. So we want to do and then it will be anything with head and aggravated. So you can see here that appears. And again, I truncated the word. It's just a little tip I use for myself. I truncate words, but you can also do it begins with, exact match, ends with, or not contains. So if you're looking, you don't want something included. So you want it to include headache, but you do not want it to include aggravated. You can use this feature. So, and then do a search. And as you can see, it will come up with just headache and nothing with the word aggravated. Again, there's no right or wrong here. You can search any way you like. I typically use the basic search, but this advanced search comes in handy, especially if you're new to using the browser. I've been using the browser many, many, many years, and you know, I know what I like to type and how to truncate words, but if you're a little bit less familiar, this is a great starting point. Use this advanced search to your advantage, and you can kind of search around for what you're looking for, kind of what your reported term includes. So I'm going to clear this and go back to basic, and then we'll have it. And see, you can, again, truncate, and you'll get the same results, except you can't exclude things and stuff like that in this, it would just using the basic search. So if you wanted to exclude aggravated, you use that advanced search. Okay, so we're coming to the end of the webinar, believe it or not, already, because this was just a short demo today. We do demo in detail in a lot of our other webinars, but this is just to get you oriented. And again, as Sarah mentioned, this will be available on our YouTube channel after this is complete, probably in like usually a day or so. We did not have any technical issues that I know of, so it should be available, and you could go back and watch this. And if you are interested in more demos, just let us know, provide us feedback, and maybe we can do demos on different things as well throughout the course of the year. But one more thing I wanted to show is you can also switch to SMQ view, which is just a view to show you all the SMQs. As I mentioned today, I will not be going into detail around SMQs, but this is just what it looks like. So say you were again searching for the word headache and you say, hey, I want to see what SMQs headache falls under. You just click, you just do a quick search, type in headache, click search, and it will pop up. And then you, again, you can use your plus sign and say, oh, okay, it's under drug withdrawal. That's SMQ. And you can actually, again, just right click, go to browser, you can double click, and then it will take you over to where it's located in the SMQ. And again, SMQs have PTs are more at the PT level, so that's what appears, although you can search at the LLT level as well, if that's what you're interested in, see what LLTs fall under. And they do have narrow and broad scope, which are identified by blue for narrow and red for broad. And again, you can use your legends button if you don't know what something means, or a square around the term to look and see what that means. So with that being said, and at the end of today's demo, I hope it was helpful. And I do have another slide that I will show everyone now, just to give you some tips that you can take with you for doing a basic search. So my number one thing is, if you run into a problem with a web-based browser, right, try to restore the defaults like was shown here. You can restore defaults. Just click that button. It's an easy way to kind of reset your browser. It did help. I did teach a face-to-face class last week, and we did use that restore defaults quite a few times as people ran into a couple problems with the browser. It does help. Another thing is maybe try logging out and logging back in. Sometimes when you're using something that's hooked to an internet connection, I know it sounds so simple and it sounds, you know, like just common, you know, just what people commonly do, but it is something that does help, is to log out and log back in. Also, as I mentioned several times today, one of my key things is use a snippet of a term to search what you are looking for. You don't always have to type in the full reported term, just use a snippet. Say you're looking for a death term, right? You may want to just type in DEA instead of the full word death, because then your search would also include anything that had the word dead in it, right? Not just death. So that's something that you can keep in mind as you go on your journey using the browser. It is tremendously helpful to use truncated terms or words when searching. And then sometimes you get a lot more than you're looking for. However, I always feel it's better to have more in your search than not enough, right? And then you could also search all combinations of terms, as well as any synonyms or similar terms for that term. So while you're searching, search diarrhea or search loose stools. Don't just do one, maybe do both and just see what pops up. Use that synonym checkbox feature in the web-based browser to help you search these types of terms. And then again, you can use a top-down or a bottom-up approach, like I showed you, by clicking on those different terms and expanding them and collapsing them and looking that way. So you can also keep that in mind. And with that being said, I just want to check in one last time to see if there are any questions.
We actually just got a couple of them. Yes.
Okay.
One said, could you please explain the research bin feature?
Oh, yes, the research bin. Yes, don't let me get off without showing that. I am sorry, I totally forgot to show that. That's my fault. So we will do that now. So say you're looking at the word headache, right? And you're interested in a couple of the headache terms. You can just click and use your control button. So we'll do band-like headache and then click again while holding the control button. Say cluster headache. We'll do drug withdrawal headache. We'll do regular headache, frontal headache, right? Say that's enough for this search. What you do then, as these are highlighted, you right-click on the term and you say add to my research bin. And this will pop up. Oops, we want to show the research bin. So we want to show my research bin here. And you get this. And now all those terms are in there with their associated codes. And at this, because we looked at all levels, the levels appear here. And then what you can do is you can export this. And you will get a nice Excel that will appear. Just give it a second. Hopefully it's not too long. It might take a second to open. And then as you can see, you will have your Excel that appears for anything you put in your research bin. So say you're looking for, 100, 200 terms, you could keep adding to that research bin and then export it when you're ready. So it's a good way to kind of, and then save this to your desktop or wherever you save it, if you save to a SharePoint site, etc. So you can use it for future reference to use for whatever you may need for coding or analysis. But it does give you that code and that term, which is very important sometimes, when providing to your biostatisticians or anyone analyzing the data. So it's as simple as that. And then you can clear all, or you can remove a certain term if you want, check it and remove it. If you don't want that included, or someone looks at what you pulled and they say, okay, we don't want that, you can print it, if you have a printer and you want to print, and you can also import if that's something you're interested in, but we can clear all of these and then you can start over. And it is important to note that using the web-based browser, anyone in your organization that may be using this, if they put stuff in the research bin, it will appear here when you go in to use it. So you may want to check or clear all when you go in, or check to make sure nobody needed that. But the best thing to do, I would say, is get what you need in a research bin, export it to an Excel, and then go in and clear it. And then we do have these two features, as I mentioned, the SFQ analysis and the hierarchy analysis. They are available. We won't be going into detail on them today, like I mentioned, because it's very important for those two features of this tool. They are like tools within a tool. So it's important to have background on those. And if you're interested in more in the SMQ analysis feature, you can join the SMQ webinar, and we go through that in much detail, as well as the hierarchy analysis feature. And we do have a data analysis webinar, as well as SMQ webinars available where you can get more information around those two features. So the research bin, again, you could just click on any terms you're interested. You can even do it if you're more comfortable on this side of the browser, and say you're looking at just the PT level, you can click, hold control, again, click, whatever you're interested in, and then just add to your research bin. And then if your research bin ever gets lost, because say you, I don't know, you clicked on something else and it goes away, just right click on anywhere and just say show my research bin, and it will come back up, and then you'll be able to see it. Okay, so with that being said, are there any additional questions?
Yeah, you might have already answered these. When do we decide which to use, the SOC or SMQ?
So that depends on what you're doing. So there's many different reasons to use either or. However, what I would recommend again is maybe taking what is MedDRA and how is it used, or MedDRA Basics webinar, and we will go through, you know, the MedDRA hierarchy and SOC, etc. If you're looking in the SMQ view, standardized MedDRA query, this is more for analysis purposes. Whereas if you're looking in the SOC view, this is more for, say, medical coding. It's also for analysis stuff.
Perfect. Someone else asked a similar question, I'm thinking, compared to the one that was earlier. It says, can you please show us how to download MedDRA on our laptop?
Oh, so that's another question. I'll answer the same. I'm not going to do that today. And also, you have to check internally with your organization to make sure that they allow you to be able to download something like the desktop browser to your laptop, I should say. I almost said web page. But again, if you go to meddra.org and you go to how to use and you go to tools here, you can click on browsers, and there'll be information around the desktop browser that you can look into. So downloading the desktop browser, you can click on that and do a little research, and here there's some information around it. But you also, I would highly recommend just checking internally, because some organizations do not allow users to download the desktop browser, or they might have other options available, like they'll give you the ID and password for the web-based browser, or they would have an internal browser that they would like you to use as well. So maybe just check, always best. Any other questions?
And then the last one that just came in was, in the research bin, what does import button do?
So that would just, if you have some terms that you want to import on top of what you're searching. So let me see if I could pull up research here. See if, I think I cleared my research bin. Maybe I didn't last time. Show my research bin. Okay. So that would just be like if you have additional terms that you want to import in. So you already have some coding or something. You have some terms built in, say, in Excel. You already exported one and you want to import them to be added along with these additional terms. You can choose your file here and import them. So that's what that feature is. Okay, any other questions?
Nope, that was it. Thank you so much.
All right, so thank you all for joining our very short demo today on the web-based browser. I appreciate you all taking the time out of your very busy days to join me here. I know it was a short one. I just tried to get you introduced to the browser and different simple kind of features that you can use in your day-to-day. And like I mentioned several times, we do go into more detail around say the web-based browser tool, as well as our other browsers in other webinars. So hopefully we will see you in one of those in the future. And with that being said, I would like to wish everyone a great rest of your day and a great ending to your week. We're halfway there. And I appreciate you taking out the time to join me today. And if you do have any additional questions, you can always send them to the MSSO help desk, and we can try to answer them in a timely fashion. Okay, so thank you all. I appreciate it, and have a great one.